did get it to spit out, based on the animation set used by this weapon, exactly how long the execute will be. So instead of having to memorize how long the executes are for different weapons, like spears versus swords, because the execute time in the animation is different, the scripter would have to memorize that because some swords take like twice, or some sword animations take twice as long as your stab. And so instead of setting them both to, like you could set them both to a factor of 20, in this sheet, they wouldn't be the same duration, but I wanted to equalize that for the scripter. Um, So, so I had to use some crazy formulas to do that. So Doom Speaker's asking if we finished the weapon icon for gauntlets. I think I doodled stuff on the board and asked Matt, aka Zilly Zephyr, to basically take what I doodled on the board and make something out of it. So let's see if he ever did that. If he ever got around to working on it. I gave him some other tasks, so he may not have just yet. And I'm opening up the vector file that he was working in. But so you guys, I had a revelation today that that the weapons in our game are like the Pokemon in Pokemon. This is the phrase that came to my mind. So I'm thinking that because you want to collect them, you want to get the upgrade, you want Pikachu to turn into Raichu or whatever. You want to find the sword that's slightly better than the sword that you currently have. So I mean, you could basically say like weapons in Diablo or Torchlight are like the Pokemon of those games. It's kind of a collect and upgrade and optimize system. So yeah, it looks like Matt hasn't had time to go back to the gauntlets, but looking at them again, I rather kind of like this one. I think what we landed on was something like those, kind of, sort of. But yeah, so yeah, he's been doing a really good job vectorizing all of these, taking the original drawing and kind of making them all grid based and that sort of thing. So it's actually quite a bit of work doing this kind of stuff. So he's done a really good job on them. They're all really clean. Have these little black bars are to measure in betweens to make sure that the spaces in between each piece are the same across the board. So yeah. Gotta sharpen them all. So anyway, like this revelation about weapons was, basically, like I want the weapons to be probably more unique than I've been thinking about them looking. So as you go from like minor swords up to like crazy cool swords, like this sword is fine, like for a basic sword, but I think we want some slightly more wild looking stuff by the time we get to the ultimate level swords. So, this sword looks like a little bit better, a little more interesting because the different, like the curve and everything. It still doesn't seem like a huge kind of cool upgrade from this guy up here. So I want to start sketching some different weapons that are just like quite a bit more unique. Like I might actually start with some of the ultimate level weapons and work my way down instead of the other way around. Or do one at either end and one in the middle. So draw one really crappy sword, one kind of basic middle of the road sword, and then one super fancy one, and then fill in the blanks in between, to get the 10 or 20 or so weapons that we're probably going to have in each category. So let's look for my weapons. This is the old weapons list with all of our crazy ideas for things. So weapon names. Wait for it to load because it's only 1,000,000 entries long. So here's the list of ideas for sword names. So we've got 28, probably a few too many. So I really kind of like the alley smile being the name of a sword, or like the cat's claw. There's actually a few for that reference cats: cat tail, cat's paw, cat claw. And you can see over here on the right what tier these are. So probably Talon should be like higher up in the list, something like that. But anyway, let's try to come up with what the alley smile would look like just for fun, since I'm on a live stream and need to not be boring. So, and actually, before I forget, in case I need to do work later tonight, I should probably save out this action. My brain is so fried I can't even figure out where's the. Why can't I save actions? That doesn't make any sense. I think I have to save the group, maybe. Yeah, here we go. Okay, save actions. D-drop, PSD presets. Yep. Save and replace. There we go. Is there a sword that smashes enemies? You mean like crushing damage, or like a two-handed gigantic? Yeah, those are. Well, we're calling them great swords. Is the category like a Zweihander? So you won't actually, unfortunately, like the character won't hold them in both hands, just because that would be like even more work animation wise to do that, and we're trying to cut back so Kurt doesn't go crazy. Um, so you will hold it in one hand, but you will have like some swords that are just gigantic, sweeping whoosh that you can actually spin in a full circle. So. And this is our new kind of master template file, so I can look at this and reference, how long any given sword should be. Let's see what our ranges are. Yeah, so knives are about 60. You could have a super short knife, which is 24, barely pokes past the character, up to 60, and swords are 120. Great swords would natively be somewhere in the range of 180, which is about a tile and a half, but we can actually scale up from there. So yeah, most swords probably going to be somewhere in this 120 range, which is a full tile or maybe a little bit more. So since we want to work on the alley smile, I'll kind of base it on 120. Might go a little longer. So I want some kind of layer that fades all of this back a little bit, so I can draw without too much distraction here. So I was kind of thinking, like, I mean, it needs to look probably kind of curvy, because you think of a smile, or like, cutting like a Joker smile in someone, and I imagine the blade being all kind of sort of like curvy. And let's make it a little longer than normal, so we'll go up to about here. I forget what that actually is. So each increment is 12 pixels, so that's 144. Because you'd add 120 plus 24, so I'm just going to notate that. Actually, I'll put it out here to the side. might be kind of cool to give it like a sort of this double pronged thing up here at the top. So something like, make it look very razor bladed. And we probably want to have some kind of decorative thing in here. So that's, like I was saying before, that's why I was messing around with all those red and blue sectors on the, to colorize. Basically we would set this this decorative kind of central element as red or something, and then we could colorize it differently than the rest of the sword when we do the automatic colorizing. And probably a lot of you know, but just for anyone new to the stream, the automatic colorizing is so that we can apply different materials to a sword. So in the randomization system, we're going to have... this list is bigger than the actual list. We need to trim it down some, but there's a list of metal materials that affect your sword in different ways. So you could have you might find an iron ally smile versus a steel ally smile, and it would have slightly different stats. So I put in here like iron is fairly heavy but highly effective, knocks enemies back farther, but slower to wield, so slow wind up, slow execute, but bigger knockback. So it's kind of a pro-con. Steel says fast and efficient weapons that can be used for a long time, so it would have bonus uses and be somewhat fast. What's dragon skin? I guess dragon skin was up here. I don't know what dragon skin would do, or unicorn hide, no idea. I had a writer come up with a list of different like cloth materials, so. And we don't have descriptions written for those yet, so it was really just a list of ideas. I went through all of the metals and tried to come up with, okay, what would this metal do, to figure out, like, could we actually have, 10 or so different metals for randomization that have unique properties. And I came up with some decent uniqueness for the list, but there are too many in here. Like, for someone picking up a copper versus a bronze sword, like, how are they going to know which one's better? Like, whatever. I feel like I need a little inspiration, so let's do a little search here for some other video game weapons, because I want these to be chunky. So whenever you're zoomed out to like this scale, which is about the scale of the game, you can still tell that this is a unique weapon. So you want all the details to be pretty noticeable. And when I said like the weapons are the Pokemon of the game, like I was also thinking, like the the details should be chunky. They should be fairly recognizable, fairly distinct. Kind of have these families of things that go together. Um, so so I looked up some Final Fantasy IX weapons here just to see what we came up with because I always liked Final Fantasy IX and how it handled weapons because you would actually learn different moves from various weapons. So going into like this kind of territory is something I want to consider. I don't remember Final Fantasy IX having all these guns. That's Final Fantasy VIII. Someone's confused, or Google is maybe. So yeah, like this, swords with these kind of mechanical bits on them. Some stuff like that. Or yeah, the really small image, but something like a little uh, more of an ornate curve. Really crazy sword. And I mean, I'm hoping we can pull off something like this with that much detail, with those, having those two extra colors that can be modified for detail purposes. And yeah, I really like the hilt on that. Got these kind of cool details on the blade. And I was also going to look at Darksiders 2 weapons. And it actually has like a pretty wide range of weapons. Not quite as wide as ours, but it was surprisingly like a lot of different types. And you can see like these are uh, really kind of ornamental. So much detail you'd never be able to tell in our game, most likely. But but they all feel so unique. And that's something I want to try to strive for. So imagine like broadswords that look like this kind of stuff. Or yeah, this, weird, I don't know, axe maul something that has a bird head on it, stuff like that. Yeah, the art for Darksiders 1 and especially 2 is really, really good. Um, I always forget the guy's name. It's like Joe Madureira. Um, so yeah, it's got several kind of unique layers of stuff going on, which is probably something I need to think more about, like these interlocking and overlapping layers, because I tend to draw things a little more simple and flat, which I mean can be good, but there's a lot more depth to something like this, and yeah, I mean these you feel much more three-dimensional. So what if instead of this being an inlay, this actually kind of protrudes outside as well? It's looking a little badass for an alley smile, maybe. So maybe I'll trim this up a little bit. Because you think, I think kind of like switchblades and slightly more kind of small and delicate weapons. Even though we want it to be a fairly good sized sword, a little bigger than a single tile. Let's catch up on comments again. Someone or Doomspeaker was asking, are weapons like this possible as well? And the answer is probably yes. I mean, because we're doing all the like material modification, like the more colors you add, the harder it gets. But this is, I mean, it's basically 2 colors. So yeah, we could probably do something similar. And that was from, looks like Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. So, I mean, the hitbox wouldn't be super accurate for something that's very weirdly shaped. So yeah, like Nathan was saying, the hitbox is basically a rectangle or a wedge. So the hitbox for something like this would look pretty much like it would basically start at the character, what we call the clavicle, which is right inside the character's kind of neck, or like where the shoulder would have sort of connect into the middle of the chest, and then it would have a box that does something like that, and that box or wedge would, like I said, would kind of sweep around. So probably something like that. So yeah, it's not like 100% accurate, but it's close enough that within like a single frame, it's the sword will fill out this entire space because it's sweeping at such speed. So. I'm actually kind of wondering if I should put like a literal smile in here, like some not like a total face. That would be kind of weird, but something that is face-like. Just because it would make something called the alley smile like even a little bit more unique. So I mean, we've got kind of this like smile mouth going on in a way, like with the teeth here. So I could turn this into turn that. So this would be like, what if this is kind of the lower jaw of this like laughing creature kind of thing, and we basically put an eyeball in here somewhere. I don't want to do like a super explicit face like I was saying. So it's the kind of thing that you'd have to kind of you wouldn't see at first glance maybe, but if you stare at it long enough, you'd notice. Kind of feel like this is starting to look like something out of Soul Calibur. Like it might be a little bit over the top, but that's kind of fun for the ultimate weapons in the game, I suppose. I was thinking about making this lower jaw kind of look like it actually wraps around. I don't know. It's kind of cool. Probably need to work on a few more of these to really kind of get in the groove. I mean, it feels kind of ridiculous, but I think it actually fits the game we're making pretty well. So, catching up on comments again. So I probably need to just go through and like doodle a bunch of these weapons actually to, like I said, get more kind of in the groove of the overall look I want for them. So let's find, here's the weapon name list again. So we already had some of the lower end ones drawn. So I may just zip through here and doodle some of the other ones. So Talon, and we probably want to be something like kind of thinking kind of eagle-like. You know, maybe it actually kind of looks like both a claw and feathers. But I don't want to get into crazy like scimitar territory because that's actually kind of a different weapon category. So for the dicer, I don't think we had descriptions for any of these really. Yeah, we just came up with the names so I can be as crazy as I want. I mean, the dicer kind of makes me think it's like it's got a bunch of little claws or it's almost like a comb made out of blades or something. So maybe we'll do something like. Back up, Photoshop. Why are you freezing? Don't freeze. So I probably want a bit of a point up here. I also don't want to encroach on the territory of cleavers, which are going to be like your big, kind of meat cleaver type weapons. So want all the swords to have a little bit of this sense of delicacy to them, a little bit thinner. So swashbuckler, we need to do something very pirate-ish, maybe with a literal buckle on it. Sorry, sneezing. Like I said earlier, our whole office smells really weird. Um, so yeah, Cloud's weapon would probably be considered a cleaver or a greatsword, like Cloud from Final Fantasy VII and Advent Children. Um, we need to put this weapon designed into D-drop thread. Kobe seems to have disappeared. I don't know if he's like smoking an entire pack of cigarettes all in one go, or if he's trying to figure out why our office smells like it's drenched in gasoline. Fortunately, even if the office blows up, we have everything on SVN and Dropbox. So as soon as insurance paid out, we would be able to, keep working on the game. If we were to go up in blazes, which hopefully won't happen. I wish I could figure out how to get my audio stuff set up so I could actually stream with music playing, because I'm listening to this really cool kind of metal, like prog rock band called Russian Circles. So if you guys are into like instrumental metal type stuff, you might want to check out Russian Circles. I think their earlier albums are still probably my favorite. Right now I'm listening to the one called Geneva. Let me see if I can get an iTunes link for you guys. Yeah, I was seeing if I could get the link to an individual song in iTunes, but I'm not sure I can do that. Oh well, you guys can use Google. Thanks, Fasay.
Chips.
Huh?
Got some rich chips. I don't think they're gluten friendly.
Did you investigate the source of the gasoline?
There's a van broke down the street, which I assume was the cause. An old van.
You wouldn't think a van breaking down on the street next to us would make the entire place smell like gasoline, though.
Well, unless they were out of gas and they're trying to fill it up with
Fill it up with a fire hose of gas?
cut open Dr. Pepper bottle.
They did that?
Yes.
So if you guys didn't hear, apparently their van broke down and they were trying to fill the gas tank with a cut open Dr. Pepper bottle full of gasoline.
Yeah, they had like a bucket, like literally like a 5-gallon bucket, trying to pour gas into this Dr. Pepper, like the 20-ounce ones, like funneled into it. It was fucking.
Jeez. Okay, so there's also a bucket of gasoline somewhere outside.
That's what they were pouring out of.
I should draw something cute like a couple streams back. I don't remember what I drew that was cute. So, by the way, we live on the what everyone considers to be like the sort of crappy street in town. It's actually pretty cool, but can be like a little shady sometimes, little shady, little seedy. It's we have cheap rent. It's awesome. There are a lot of actually like design studios and that sort of thing down here, but yeah, you get awesome stuff like people trying to fill their car with gasoline in the most unsafe ways possible. The swashbuckler thing is looking kind of stupid, but I'll probably just keep going for now. It's a little better. Doesn't look super pirate-ish, but it's kind of fun. I wanted to give it the kind of like basket hilt, or not. Well, I guess it's not a basket hilt. I don't know what you would call that. Like a basket hilt, I think usually like guards quite a bit of the hand and has kind of a little cross piece on on a rapier. So it's kind of shaped like a basket hilt, but just more of a guard in front of the fist. I don't really worry about relative weapon size right now. I'll resize them up later. I need to look up the Cincadea because I forget exactly what that's shaped like. Okay, right, that's the Roman sword. Or I believe it's Roman anyway. And usually it's got this triangular blade and kind of the grooves down it. That hilt's kind of cool, like having the curving sort of circular. I guess you guys can't actually see where my mouse is, but like that hilt is pretty cool looking. Or like this one, I mean that sword doesn't look super usable, but it's cool. Yeah, and a lot of them have the giant pommel. That one's really cool. I like how the one on the left here, the guard curves around so much. I mean, it looks a little ornamental more so than really useful. That one's got a really cool scabbard. So let's see what I can come up with here. So we of course have to do like a big weird triangular blade. Probably don't want it that wide though. Maybe to spice this up, we can actually just put like a hole of sorts in here. Or maybe just ornamentation. Let's see. There's a question about would we consider a throwing glaive, and I always forget what I think. Glaive can refer to two different things. So let me. Yeah. So you search for glaive because I was looking this up a while back, and you get a bunch of these spears, but then there's also like a this 5-bladed or 2-bladed throwing star kind of thing. I mean, I think officially speaking, like a glaive, yeah. So maybe it refers to the blade itself, like the kind of blade that's on the polearm, because then there's these throwing glaives. Let's check Wikipedia. But yeah, we are going to have thrown slashing weapons like shuriken, so we could very easily make something that's like this throwing glaive kind of thing. Okay, yeah, let's see. Starting around the 1980s, the word began to describe a fourth type of weapon, a whirling projectile blade, similar to a shuriken but much larger and cast like a chakram or hungamunga. I don't know what a hungamunga is. I've heard of a chakram. This fictional weapon is usually portrayed as being able to return to its wielder. So let's see, where... it doesn't say where it originated. It said it was in Kroll and Blade and Batman Begins. Interesting stuff for Chakram. And no picture for this other thing. Some kind of thrown dagger, it looks like. But anyway, so yeah, there are some plans for all kinds of thrown, bladed, or piercing weapons. So, and yeah, the question about the throwing star having limited uses even for the assassin, that is probably true. The assassin may have a special ability where they can kind of pull shurikens out of nowhere and throw a few of them with an attack. So it wouldn't have to be in the inventory if it's used by the special ability. But if they actually find like a pack of shurikens sitting on the ground, they probably would have to use them one at a time and use them up. As far as boomerangs, like going back to the player, I'm not sure about that, about the returning part. We haven't really talked about it. So. And let's see. Well, you guys are talking about a bunch of stuff. I'll let you move some of that to the forums. But yeah. So let's see. I don't know. I don't think we have a Gladius in here right now. We could pretty easily add it, but I don't want to go too crazy with the weapon list. I mean, but the one thing is, like, you know, the weapon is mainly defined by the blade, and then somewhat by the hilt and the pommel and all of that. Of course, the hilt and pommel and everything can actually get changed out through randomization. So you could get a swashbuckler that, unless that buckle is actually built into the blade part of the weapon, if it's built into the hilt, that could get changed for something else. So you could get like the heavy hilted swashbuckler, and it would have like a big, gigantic, beefy hilt on it or something like that. But yeah. Oh, so many reference images you guys are sending me. So all that to say, like, I'm probably actually going to reuse the hilts a few times for the base weapons and make, like, because it's pretty easy to make more unique blades. It's harder to make a unique blade hilt pommel for every single one. So we'll probably have, like, you know, I don't know, like 6 to 10 hilts across the 20 to 30 different swords, and then like more hilts that get pulled through randomization. So I need to save this before I forget or before it crashes or anything. Come on, computer. Stop locking up. So, okay, looks like you guys have a forum thread up about this. Um, Weapons we'd like to see in Delver's Drop. I should probably, before you guys go too nuts on that, I should probably drop in the full weapon category list, so that you don't have to like repeat things or suggest things that we're already hopefully planning on kind of maybe doing. So let me try dropping this in there. So it's going to be a little disorganized-ish. Um, yeah, pretty disorganized probably, but let's see what that looks like. Oh God, it's a mess of formatting. Okay, I need to do something different. I know doing a forum post not the most exciting thing I could do on the live stream, but we'll probably wrap it up. It's 5 o'clock. Need to wrap it up anyway. Jeez. Um, but I'll let you guys. You can ask a few more questions about weapony things. Would it be too much to ask for a drop of the elemental sheet in the Boogaloo thread or Bogaloo? I don't know. Do I have any sketches for the ball and chain? Meteor hammer, whatever I'm calling it. Probably the falling star, I think. I do not have any sketches, no. So let's see. I mean, I could make some of these spreadsheets public, or at least like publicly viewable. Um, let's see. I mean, this is going to be like spoilerific, like crazy, but Okay, so I just put up a publicly viewable but non-editable, at least I hope it's not editable, link to the spreadsheet. There are probably a bunch of things that aren't going to make sense, and yeah, so um, so elemental stuff. Well, I can try to give you guys a spreadsheet for that. Um, I'll have to figure out what spreadsheet would be best. Actually, uh, okay, so I just also linked you guys in that second thread, the Juju Elemental Boogaloo whatever thing to a sheet. It's not maybe like the well, it'll have some interesting stuff for you, because it's got the elemental grid, like what's opposite what, etc., and so a bunch of descriptions for the elements. So yeah, so hit those two forum threads that are linked in chat, or go to, I think they're both in Lively Discourse. One is weapons we'd like to see, and one is Lively Discourse, Delver's Juju Elemental Boogaloo. And the forums are, of course, forums.pixelscopic.com. So Delver Dirks are a special kind of sword that has special properties that I haven't completely decided what they do yet. It does fit into the lore. I'm not sure how they fit into this game. But basically, the Delver Dirks would have some kind of an alchemical, kind of magical ability to. It has something to do with the wielder's blood. I'll say that much at least. Like, I haven't really written it down or anything, but basically, like, you could use a Delver Dirk and like sacrifice some of your own blood by, like, grasping the blade and or gripping it or whatever, for some special benefits. So it would actually, like, probably damage you if you use it, but it's there's a lot of it would have a big benefit. And and yes, there will be self-damaging weapons. The tier 1 weapons, which are the most abysmal weapons, I think I had an example of one hanging out somewhere. It's in a different file, but yeah, there was one. It's in this list is called either like the Mangler and the Butterblade. They have just like kind of like leather wrapped around instead of a real hilt, and so yeah, they would actually cause damage to you every time you use them. Which reminds me that might need to be in the spreadsheet somewhere. Be in this sheet. Damage total, let's see. Actually, I'll put it over by critical. Okay, so I just added these couple fields to the spreadsheet. So we can put in here, a chance of damage as like, a 1% chance that you would take 1 damage from using this weapon. So a bunch of this stuff isn't supported yet. Basically anything that's red here is not currently supported, but we're slowly building in support for all those features. By the way, if any of you guys find that you can somehow edit my spreadsheets, please let me know, because I don't want people to destroy them. As much as I wouldn't mind a bit of collaboration, theoretically, they're very delicate. They are my babies, and I've just put a bunch of work into making them function very very easily. So yeah, it looks like we've already got a bunch of viewers. So anyway, with that, scythes, yes, scythes are special. They do arcane damage rather than normal kind of piercing or slashing damage. So they can quasi magically pierce through enemies that have armor and things like that. And Visay, yeah, editing or copying the spreadsheet, like we are going to make all these spreadsheets publicly accessible at some point, or at least every spreadsheet that's used in the game for data. So at least like by the time we release, all these spreadsheets will be publicly available for modding purposes. So you will be able to edit things just as easily as we can. You could actually start using them right now. The bad thing is, like I was saying, these aren't the weapon sheet I linked you to isn't currently supported. There's an old weapon sheet that is currently being used by the game right now, but we're slowly switching over to this one. So as soon as he supports that, you guys could use this to mod your own weapons. I mean, you could mod them right now using the CSVs, but this makes it much easier. But there's a bunch of like junky formatting kind of stuff in here because I was just trying to get the sheet working. But anyway, so yeah. Any other questions before I log off of here? All right. Well, thanks for showing up, everyone, and happy delving. Talk to you all soon.